Nix Holloway had always been the black sheep of the Holloway family. While her siblings pursued respectable careers in finance and law, she had become a successful investigative journalist, exposing corruption wherever she found it. Her family saw her work as embarrassing, but what they really feared was that she might turn her investigative skills on them. The Holloway family had built their fortune through 3 generations of carefully hidden crimes. Her father, Magnus Holloway, ran a construction company that used substandard materials and bribed inspectors to look the other way. Her mother, Cordelia, laundered money through her chain of art galleries. Her brother Damon controlled the family's illegal gambling operations, while her sister Vex managed their human trafficking network disguised as a modeling agency. But Nix had been getting too close to the truth. During family dinners, she would ask innocent questions about their businesses that made everyone uncomfortable. She had started investigating some of their associates, and they knew it was only a matter of time before she exposed them all. Nix is becoming a liability, Magnus had said during a family meeting she wasn't invited to. Her journalism is drawing too much attention to our operations. She's always been the problem child, Cordelia agreed. Maybe it's time we solved that problem permanently. The plan was simple but brutal. They would stage a car accident during Nix's drive home from her apartment. Damon had contacts in the local police who would ensure the investigation. Concluded it was driver error. The $2 million life insurance policy they had secretly taken out on her would be split among the family. She's worth more to us dead than alive, Vex had laughed during the planning session. The night of the planned accident, Nix was driving home from a family dinner when a truck ran her off the road. Her car flipped 3 times before crashing into a ravine. The explosion was visible for miles, and when the fire department arrived, they found only charred wreckage and no identifiable remains. What the family didn't know was that Nix had survived. She had been thrown from the car before the explosion and had crawled into the woods, severely injured but alive. A homeless veteran named Marcus found her and, recognizing her from her articles about veteran affairs, helped her to an underground medical facility run by a doctor who owed her a favor. For 3 months, while her family collected insurance money and celebrated her death, Nix recovered in secret. She had suffered a broken leg, severe burns, and traumatic brain injury, but she was alive and furious. "Let me die officially," she told Dr. Elena Vasquez, the physician treating her. "I need them to think they won." During her recovery, Nix used her investigative skills to gather evidence of her family's crimes. She had always suspected they were involved in illegal activities, but now she had the motivation and opportunity to prove it. She discovered that Magnus's construction company had been responsible for the collapse of a school that killed 12 children. Cordelia's art galleries were fronts for selling stolen artwork and artifacts. Damon's gambling operations had murdered people who couldn't pay their debts. Vex's modeling agency had trafficked over 200 young women into sexual slavery. But the most shocking discovery was the evidence of their plan to kill her. She found recordings of their planning sessions, financial records showing the insurance policy, and communications with the corrupt police officers who had covered up the accident. They didn't just try to kill me, Nix realized. They've been planning this for years. After 6 months of preparation, Nix was ready for her resurrection. She had evidence that would destroy not just her family, but the entire criminal network they had built. She had also discovered that they had used her death to access her bank accounts, steal her research, and claim ownership of her apartment. The revelation came during Magnus's 65th birthday party, a lavish celebration at the family mansion. All of their criminal associates were there, celebrating what they thought was their permanent security now that the troublesome daughter was gone. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced the party host, "I'd like to propose a toast to Magnus Holloway and his beautiful family." At that moment, the lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the main entrance. Nix walked in, her scars visible but her head held high, carrying a briefcase full of evidence. "I'd like to propose a different toast," she announced, her voice carrying across the stunned crowd, "to family loyalty, truth, and justice." The room erupted in chaos. Cordelia fainted, Damon tried to run, and Vex started screaming. Magnus stood frozen, staring at the daughter he thought he had murdered. "Surprised to see me?" Nix asked with a cold smile. "You should be. Dead people usually don't come back to ruin birthday parties." At that moment, FBI agents surrounded the mansion. Nix had spent months building cases against every person in that room, and tonight was the coordinated takedown of the entire criminal network. "Magnus Holloway, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and racketeering," announced Agent Sarah Martinez, leading the arrests. Over the next hour, every member of the Holloway family and their associates were arrested. The evidence Nix had gathered was overwhelming: recorded conversations, financial records, witness testimonies, and physical evidence of their crimes. But Nix's revenge was just beginning. She had spent her death months writing a book about her family's crimes, documenting everything from their attempted murder of her to their decades of criminal activity. "Dead Woman Walking: How I Survived My Family's Murder Plot and Brought Down Their Criminal Empire" became an instant bestseller, exposing the corruption that had protected wealthy criminals for generations. The trials were a media sensation. Nix testified against every member of her family, watching as they were sentenced to life in prison. Magnus received 3 consecutive life sentences, Cordelia got 85 years, Damon was sentenced to life without parole, and Vex received 95 years. "They thought killing me would solve their problems," Nix said during her testimony. "Instead, it gave me the motivation to solve everyone else's problems with them." The aftermath was even more satisfying. The families of the school children killed by Magnus's faulty construction received millions in compensation. The women trafficked by Vex's agency were rescued and provided with support services. The stolen artwork in Cordelia's galleries was returned to museums and rightful owners. Nix used the insurance money her family had stolen to establish the Holloway Foundation for Justice, which helped victims of family abuse and corruption. She also created a scholarship fund for investigative journalism, ensuring that the next generation would continue exposing the truth. "They tried to bury me," Nix said during her TED talk that received 20 million views. "But they forgot that I'm a journalist. We don't stay buried. We dig up the truth and bring it to light." The ultimate satisfaction came when she visited her family in prison. They had lost everything: their freedom, their fortune, their reputation, and their criminal empire. Meanwhile, she had become one of the most respected journalists in the country. "You should have just left me alone," she told Magnus through the prison glass. "I might have exposed you eventually, but I would have done it through normal channels. Instead, you turned me into someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove." Years later, when criminology students studied family crime syndicates, they would learn about the Holloway resurrection, how one woman's survival and determination brought down an entire criminal dynasty and changed how authorities investigate wealthy families. "They thought death was the end of my story," Nix would tell her audiences. "Instead, it was just the beginning of theirs ending." The family that had tried to murder their own daughter had created their own worst nightmare: a woman with unlimited determination, unshakable evidence, and the power to expose corruption wherever she found it. The daughter they had tried to eliminate had become the author of their complete destruction. The journalist they had tried to silence had become the voice that brought justice to hundreds of victims. Nix Holloway had proven that sometimes the most dangerous person is the one you think you've already killed. her story became a warning to corrupt families everywhere. Some ghosts refuse to stay buried, and some stories refuse to end.